My name is Rose. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm an artist and a rug hooker, and I make things. Growing up, I lived in an artistic household. Both my parents are artists, and my mother, who is a painter, as well as my father, when she had children, she could no longer get to a studio and paint, especially oil paint. And so creating rugs and rug hooking became her medium because it could always be around in the living room. She could pick it up and put it down with kids. She could do it in front of the TV or with little breaks. And so that was always a fixture in my living room growing up, always seeing her make these rugs. And she loved rug hooking as opposed to any other kind of textile art because there was so much freedom in it. With rug hooking, you can do whatever you want in any format you want. So you're not limited to working in a grid or colors. It can be as free as your paintings or any other type of art. Unfortunately, I didn't even start to rug hook. It was all around me, and I didn't even start to do it myself until I had kids. And I was limited in terms of getting to a studio, and again, painting or set up, clean up, all of those things. And then I took up rug hooking, and it was just so easy to do, even if you have 10 minutes in a day. I went to school for photography. I guess that was over 20 years ago, and I've always had my hands in art. Growing up with painters, I kind of wanted to separate myself from painting, but then it slowly crept in, and then it kind of took over as the medium of choice. I've had my hands in lots of different things, but I've always done collage and painting, and that was kind of my personal work. It was when I had kids that I couldn't have that space and that time to paint, and I couldn't separate the studio and the home, and it was all together, and it was a Brooklyn home, which is really small, and so I couldn't take out oil paints. I couldn't take out even acrylic paints because of the time set up. During nap, you never know when the baby will wake up, and you have to put them away or keep them out of reach, and so fiber art really became my medium of choice. When I'm making something for the floor to be walked on that gets a lot of heavy foot traffic, or even a cushion or a pillow, I will always use rug yarn because it is so durable and it will stand up for years and years and years. However, when I do art pieces that are meant for the walls, or they're not getting a lot of physical use, I will experiment with lots of different kinds of techniques and fibers. I've recently stripped old sheets, and because they're so large, they're meant for a bed, you can get a lot of yardage out of one sheet, and I dye it with very simple dyes like spices, turmeric or avocado seeds to get or pits I should say, to get that red. You can use all different kinds of natural herbs, and the fact that it's so simple to dye the cotton, and it may not be super bright, but the fact that it could fade over time, I think, just adds to it. And so I dye the fabric, and then I strip it just by either cutting and tearing with 100% cotton, or just cutting strips, and you can run that through an Oxford punch needle just like you would yarn, and it creates a beautiful effect with lots of texture. I've also experimented with plastic bags as a way to repurpose just a very common household item. In New York City, there's lots of bags going down the sidewalk. I'm always chasing after like the grocery black bags. Sometimes I'll see a really good color, but you just strip it the same way and you run it through the needle. Hardware store supplies, I love working with string and jute. I'm always experimenting with what can work with the Oxford punch needle. It's amazing how many options you have. I also love working with a canvas, a pre-stretched canvas, and then You can paint on the surface and just have a minimal amount of punch aspect to it, and it really creates a wall hanging or a piece of art, and you can combine these different mediums and different techniques, which is exciting. Teaching is really where I'm the happiest, and especially teaching rug hooking, because people get the tool and they get a little bit of material, and with very little information, they're off and running, and the possibilities for them is unlimited. They can do whatever they want, and that pleasure that they see that it gives them, it makes me very happy.